Chaos reigns supreme in the NFL.
Inside, and a beauty! Hall running free! Brees Hall inside the 10! He's gonna score!
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo. I just noticed that Baby Ben just spit up on me. Gonna probably change before I do the next video. Probably not. We'll see what happens. But welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and today we're going to be doing a brand new show that we're going to be doing every week moving forward. We're going to be going over the NFL Power Rankings leading into Week 8. These are the top 10 teams, according to Tigo, in the NFL right now. But before we get into that video, guys, if you haven't already, hit the like button and the subscribe button. It really helps the channel and it helps us beat out the YouTube algorithm and get this video out to more people. Secondly, if you haven't hit the notification bell, go ahead and do it. I have been going live more often and more spontaneously, so drop into that, be a part of that. It'll be great for everybody involved. And last but not least, get into the comment section. The comments are going absolutely insane. Go do that. Really greatly appreciate it. Let's go and let's start talking about the top 10 teams in the NFL. And it was really, really hard to make this list because I know who the top 3 teams are, right? 1, 2, and 3, super easy. But from like 4 to 10, it's really, really difficult to figure out who's a good team, who's a bad team, who's kind of just hot right now, and where to put these guys correctly after spending some time on it. These are the lists. This is the list that I came up with. Let's hop right into it. At number 10, I have the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle just came off of a pretty big win. Geno Smith continues to do absolutely insane things with the football and completing like his completion percentage is insane. The Seattle Seahawks offense is absolutely incredible. Now that Brees Hall is down, they have, in my opinion, the favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year in Kenneth Walker on their team. Seattle is one of those teams where I don't necessarily believe them as a like, hey, they're going to go super far and like I totally like believe in them 100%, but they're in a pretty bad division in their conference. Los Angeles looks bad. The San Francisco 49ers look bad. Arizona Cardinals look bad. And they have a serious opportunity to make some noise. So they're slotted in at position 10. Let's talk about the next team on my list at number 9, and that's the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Tennessee Titans, again, also coming off a pretty big win. Sweeping the Colts again, and the Colts just decided that they don't know how to play football. They're benching Matt Ryan, like it's a whole thing, but they did what they were good at, right? They played a really stout defensive game, and then they ran the ball with Derrick Henry. The reason that they're 9 is just because there were other teams on the list that could have maybe like bumped Seattle up and they would have taken 10, but I just didn't feel as confident as I do in Tennessee. Tennessee's obviously, I think, the best team in the AFC South and is probably going to win that division, and then they're going to get knocked out in the first round like they always do. The rest of the team outside of Derrick Henry and that defense isn't really that great, and you can't have one thing be your identity in Derrick Henry. And that's that. Let's move on to number 8. Number 8 is the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati looks like they might be back to what we saw from Cincinnati last year. They just hung up 35 on the Atlanta Falcons, and to be fair, the Falcons don't have any corners at all. They should be shopping for corners, but still, I'm pretty sure Joe Burrow threw for over 300 yards in like the first half. They had 2 wide receivers going over 100 yards. They absolutely dominated on that game, and I think slowly but surely, if they keep up these performances, I'm going to feel more confident moving them up the list and the rankings. But until they string a couple of these dominant performances together, they're not going to really move up the list that far because some of these other teams have been, in my opinion, a little bit more dominant. At number 7, I have the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas beat the Lions, and it was a pretty good beating. They really put it all together in like the fourth quarter and in the third quarter. The reason I have the Cowboys lower than some of these other teams who might have better records than them is because for the longest time in that Detroit Lions game, Detroit was in the game for a really long time until they weren't. Dak Prescott didn't look too great in his first game back, and he's still a little shaky, and you would expect that from a guy coming off of injury. But that being said, Dallas Cowboys are number 7 in my eyes. Now we move on to number 6. Number 6, they're the New York Jets. I have the New York Jets at number 6. I think they're a top 10 team in the NFL right now. They won a hard-fought, gritty battle against Denver. We saw that. And they just continue to win games when they're not supposed to, according to the rest of the NFL, right? The New York Jets are 5-2. They are tied with the two of the best teams in the NFL for the most wins in the division. The only team in the NFL who has more wins are the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants. So I have the New York Jets at 6 on my list, and I already mentioned one of the teams that I have at 5, and that's the New York Giants. The New York Giants found a way to grind out and win their game. It was ugly. It wasn't pretty, but the Giants beat the Jags, moving them to 6-1, and they're tied for the most wins in the NFL with the Eagles. Now, they obviously have a game in hand. The Eagles had their bye week already, so they didn't play, so they're 6-0, so they're still undefeated. But the Giants are looking good. They're finding ways to win. And while I don't necessarily believe in the Giants to be like a serious playoff contender to really go and compete, they're bringing games down to the wire, and they're really coming in and turning on in the fourth quarter. I'd love to see them win, like get ahead and sustain a win, instead of having like come back from behind and just pull miracles out of their butt at every fourth quarter. But you got to be honest, they're playing a brand of football right now that's just exciting, it's dynamic, and it's fun to watch. It's good when New York football is good. Moving on to number 4 on the list. I can't believe I put them number 4, but like I had to. You got to put some respect on them. And that's the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings are 5-1. The only game that they've lost this season is to the Philadelphia Eagles, who are undefeated, and they've looked relatively good winning their games. It looks like they're going to run away with the NFC North, and it's not going to be close. And they've got enough weapons on that team to be dangerous moving into the playoffs. You know, it's going to be fun. And like they can keep the high going. They're playing a relatively battered Arizona Cardinals team. I think Minnesota's better than the Arizona Cardinals, so they can move on to 6-1. Again, Minnesota's not getting enough respect around the league for being as good as they are, and I think that's because like the top 3 teams are so by far and away better, and there are other stories that are more interesting, like the Giants, like the Jets, like the Seahawks, that people are going to follow along. Minnesota's 5-1. Well, yeah, they probably should be. Let's have some respect for the Minnesota Vikings. They're doing their jobs. At number 3, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this is just pure bias on my part here. These 1, 2, and 3, you guys can list it however you want, but I am totally not bought in on the Philadelphia Eagles. I get it that they're undefeated and that they're 6-0, but I think that a big part of that is the schedule. I think that they've faced a relatively easy schedule up until now, beating on the Lions, and then they beat the Vikings, who were my number 4 team, and that's impressive. Good job there. But then you beat up on the Commanders, the Jaguars, the Cardinals, the Cowboys. Like, it's one of those, and it was Cowboys with Cooper Rush, right? It still wasn't Dak Prescott. It still wasn't fully healthy. Still, you have to win the games that are in front of you. There's no complaining about your schedule because you don't make the schedule. You don't get to choose. But I'd love to see the Eagles continue this streak. I think they will continue it moving into this week. They play the Steelers, and then they play the Texans, and then they play the Commanders, and then they play the Colts, and then they play the Packers, and then they play the Titans. Like, the first real game isn't going to come until really late in December, and that's against the Giants, and that's assuming that the Giants keep up this momentum, right? Because if the Giants fall off the face of a cliff, which I don't think anybody is expecting, but if it happens, and if the Giants fall down to earth, they might not face a legitimate team until they face the Cowboys on Christmas Eve, and then like the Saints on New Year's Day. Like, there's a serious conversation about like Philadelphia going 15-3, like 15-2, or 16-1, or 17-0, and still not being the best team in the NFL, just because I think the schedule is really, really easy for Philadelphia. So I have them at 3. At number 2, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs came up and they played a huge game, really just annihilating and playing incredibly well, especially like when you take into consideration, like they lost to the Bills and there was a lot of conversation about what are they going to be. And Kansas City did their job. They came back. They beat up on a 49ers team that's not easy to beat up on, but they did it. They won that game. Super respectable. Love to see that from Kansas City. And unfortunately, we go on to the best team in the NFL who did just have their bye week, and it didn't change that at all. They're probably getting healthy, but that's the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are by far and away, hands down, the best team in football. It's not close, and that's just it. It's just not close. Let me know what you guys think in my comment section below. Those are my 1 through 10. Those are my power rankings. Who do you think I have way too high? Who do you think I'm too down on? Let me know in the comment section. And last but not least, go Jets.